Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Compasa. I'm sorry if I look still scruffy. Like I've told you before, I have been a little sick. Unfortunately, I received the flu, but I'm feeling better. And today we're going to go through three articles actually. One by the U.S. Department of Defense, and then an article on the Russian news agency, that is to say the government news agency TASS, as well as one from Russia Today. So we can first start off talking about this article from the U.S. State Department Department of Defense, yes. Biden announces Abrams tanks to be delivered to Ukraine. President Joe Biden announced today that the United States will provide Ukraine with 31 M1 Abrams tanks. That is the required number to equip an entire Ukraine tank battalion. These tanks are needed, Biden said, because Ukrainian forces are working to defend the territory they hold and will be better prepared for additional counteroffensives. They need to be able to counter Russia's evolving tactics and strategy on the battlefield in the very near term. They need to improve their ability to maneuver in open terrain, and they need an enduring capability to deter and defend against Russian aggression over the long term, the president said. And there's not going to be a long term. Russia has greater military capability. They have the industrial capacity, as we were speaking about before. And one of the consequences of this war is, unfortunately, the death of the Ukrainian state, the modern nation state of Ukraine that we see today. It's going to probably be carved up. Southern and eastern part to Russia. I doubt that Poland will get the western part, but maybe they will. I don't know. But unfortunately, because they're so vehemently anti-Russian, they probably won't get it. So Ukraine might remain as a rump state with Kiev and Galicia left. I don't know. But then you have Transcarpathia, which is a Hungarian minority. And that is, there are reports that this Hungarian minority is being very mistreated. And during it was in the summer, President Orban issued some emergency law, which would sort of alert the military to act in case of I don't know, if it was an attack or something. I don't remember exactly the details of that. But some speculated that Hungary is sort of preparing itself to seize this area with this Hungarian minority. So, could be possible. Who knows? The Abrams tanks are the most capable tanks in the world, and they are also extremely complex to operate and maintain. That is correct. Along with the tanks, the U.S. will be giving Ukraine the parts and equipment necessary to effectively repair and maintain these tanks on the battlefield, he said. We've also stated this numerous times as well. It's going to take a long time to operate and maintain these tanks because Ukrainians aren't they aren't using American or Western equipment. They're using Soviet equipment. Ukrainian troops will be given training on logistics and maintenance as soon as possible, as actual delivery of these tanks will take some time, he said. It wouldn't surprise me if more NATO soldiers take an absence of leave from their armies and join as mercenaries in Ukraine to operate this Western gear. But anyway, this morning Biden said he had a long conversation with NATO allies, including German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, French President Emmanuel Macron, United Kingdom Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, and Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni regarding continued close coordination and support of Ukraine. Biden mentioned strong allied support for Ukraine, which will include German Leopard 2 tanks, a German Patriot missile battery, Challenger 2 tanks from the United Kingdom, and AMX-10 armored fighting vehicles from France. This is about helping Ukraine defend and protect Ukrainian land. It's not an offensive threat to Russia, he said. The expectation on the part of Russia is we're going to break up. We're not going to stay united, but we're fully, thoroughly, totally united, Biden said, speaking of the 50 nations that are part of the Ukraine Defense Contact Group. Senior administration officials said earlier today that these Abrams tanks will be procured through Ukraine Security Assistance Initiative funding. Unlike the Presidential Drawdown Authority, USAI is an authority under which the United States procures capabilities from industry rather than delivering equipment that is drawn from DoD stocks. The officials also noted that 8 M88 recovery vehicles will also be shipped to Ukraine to accompany the 31 tanks. Okay. I believe that they send these tanks because, first of all, they are panicking. They're seeing that the Russians are advancing. They are killing a lot of troops in Bakhmut, for example. They made some advances in Zaporozhye region. And why they are pouring in these tanks, this more heavy, and advanced type of equipment, I think it's just a way to sort of do damage control, to say that, hey, at least we sacrificed our, equipment to help Ukraine fight Russian aggression. It's going to look good on paper, or seem to look good on paper and on the media coverage. And I think Germany is going to get a lot of shit for this, because they have been hesitant. But the problem with Germany is that Olaf Scholz, he has no backbone, right? This guy always says this. This is how he operates. First, he says, Germany is not gonna send any weapons to any warring party across the world, right? Unless it's like Saudi Arabia bombing Yemen, whatever. But those people aren't human beings, right? Anyway, then he goes back and forth, and then he always backpedals to say, you know what? We're going to send this, we're going to support a good cause, or whatever. Yeah, the man is an absolute disgrace. But anyway, and so are all European Union leaders, by the way. Now we're going over to the TASS article, the Russian news agency. And it says, and they're talking about the vulnerability that these American Abrams tanks have. So, American Abrams tanks vulnerable even to Soviet-era weapons. Soviet-era weapons, says expert. U.S. President Joe Biden announced on January 25th that Washington would hand over 31 M1 Abrams tanks to the Kiev regime. Moscow, let's see here, American M1 Abrams tanks that Washington has decided to hand over to Kiev as military aid have weaknesses that allowed wiping them out with Soviet weapons, including T-55 tanks during the conflict in Iraq, armor expert candidate of military sciences, retired Colonel Sergei Suvorov told TASS on Thursday. Actually, yes, the M1 Abrams did not perform very well in Iraq. I'm having speech impediment for some reason. But the Bradleys performed much better, as far as I've heard, from guys like Scott Ritter, for instance. I think it was Scott Ritter that talked about it. And there have been video footage, if I'm not mistaken, of Bradleys being actually shipped to to Ukraine. So, but once again, the Ukrainians are not used to operate these type of tanks. So there's still gonna be like a metal casket, you know. U.S. President Joe Biden announced on January 25th that Washington would hand over 31 M1 Abrams M1 Abrams tanks to the Kiev regime. Earlier, Germany and Poland made the decision to supply German-made Leopard 2 tanks to Ukraine. It was also reported that the United Kingdom would transfer Challenger 2 tanks to Kiev. Abrams turret pierced by T-55's shell. Okay, so Abrams tanks repeatedly demonstrated their vulnerability during the hostilities in Iraq, the expert pointed out. As the Iraq combat experience shows, they went up in flames. The tank turret was pierced by a 100mm armor-piercing blunt-nose projectile fired by a T-55 tank. There were instances when Abrams vehicles were struck by automatic guns of both Bradley and our BMP-2 infantry fighting vehicles, he said. Instances are also known when the American tank was destroyed by the first Soviet modification of T-72 tanks, firing old shells that were withdrawn from operational use even before the Abrams concept was devised, Suvorov said. The expert also pointed out to the instance when Abrams tanks were wiped out by RPG-7 and anti-tank grenade launchers. An extra power plant installed in the rear part of the turret to power modern electronic systems is another weak point of later American tank modifications, the expert said. It was covered with the armor that can withstand assault rifle bullets, but is vulnerable to a 12.7mm Dishk machine gun. It was hit by a Dishk and its motor was smashed. Oil and fuel went ablaze and spilled down to the engine located below. The main engine went ablaze and then the tank itself went up in flames and burned out, he said. The American tank almost has no chance. It has no chances if it engages in duel with Russian tanks, the expert said. If an Abrams emerges at a long distance, a T-72 or a T-90 crew will fire an anti-tank missile, and we can say that the Abrams will even have no chance to fire a shot, as its range of fire won't allow it to do that, he explained. However, U.S. tanks' final efficiency depends on the commander's skills to operate it and trained crews, the expert said. Okay, structural and operational flaws. Apart from the need to fill Abrams tanks with clean jet fuel, they also have more serious operational flaws. In particular, they cannot be repaired in field conditions, the expert said. Repairs are a major problem. If something breaks down in the power plant, it has to be pulled out of the tank, taken to a special repair workshop with skilled personnel, disconnected from the gearbox and only then repaired, Suvorov said. The air intake of U.S.-made Abrams tanks is yet another vulnerability, the expert pointed out. They feature an air filter that operates similar to the equipment installed in motor vehicles. If it becomes clogged, it has to be taken out and cleaned. Meanwhile, all of our tanks are equipped with cyclone dust collectors that are quite smart devices, the expert said, adding that an Abrams filter sufficed for just 15 minutes of the tank's movement along dusty terrain during the Iraq campaign. This may be a major hurdle in employing Abrams tanks in the zone of the special military operation in Ukraine, the expert warned. It is still possible to operate in winter, but summer in Ukraine is quite dusty. Yep. The Abrams rate of fire falls after the first 3 or 4 shots due to its separate loading systems. Secondly, its principle in the American vehicle is inferior than in that in any other Western tanks and will further cut the cruise efficiency, the expert pointed out. In a Leopard tank, a loader stands straight, whereas the Abrams designers sought to reduce the tank's height, and a loader inside the vehicle operates bent low, which is not quite comfortably explained. Yeah, that's a pretty good explanation. I am not an expert on military equipment necessarily, but from what I've heard, some American weapons like the Abrams and the Patriot system, they are actually quite overhyped, to be honest with you. Now, obviously, every weapon system, whether they be Russian or American, has their strengths and weaknesses. But due to America's cultural and cultural impact across the world with Hollywood and other things and media, many people have been led to believe that American equipment is the end all, right? So it's like the shit, right? Nothing can beat it, but that's not true. And to our final article on Russia today. Let's see here. White House comments on potential NATO-Russia clash. And Foreign Minister Lavrov spoke about it in a way. He touched upon it and talked about that, that Russia and the West are almost at a direct confrontation, right? But let's see. There is absolutely no indication that Moscow is planning to strike the US-led military bloc, Washington says. NATO countries are not in danger of being attacked by Russia, US National Security Council spokesman John Kirby said on Wednesday. Speaking at a regular press briefing, Kirby was asked whether the US-led military alliance has enough troops to repel a possible Russian strike on its eastern flank in case of a major escalation in the Ukraine conflict. All I can tell you is we've seen absolutely no indication that Russian President Vladimir Putin has designs on striking NATO territory. Okay. The spokesman said. I thought they meant desires, but maybe he has designs. Okay, design. All right. The spokesman said while stressing that U.S. President Joe Biden is taking Washington's Article 5 commitments seriously. He was referring to the principle that an attack on one member is an attack on the entire alliance. Kirby noted that Washington has deployed an additional 20,000 U.S. service personnel in Europe, bringing their total number to 100,000. He added that NATO is confident that we have the capability, the energy, the talent, the manpower, and the resources to meet our Article 5 commitments. That is absolute horse shit. Because many of these European countries have they have no capability in fighting Russia. I think the British Army can be like fitted in a football stadium. And a lot of these, and the French army don't have enough ammunition to go around. So, and the Germans, well, they are depleting their stocks as we're speaking. So, Russia has, but Germany has pledged to increase its defense budget with 2% now. The annual NATO standard commitment, right? We'll see how that goes though. Russia has consistently described the US military presence on NATO's eastern flank as a threat. In late October, Kremlin Press Secretary Dmitry Peskov warned that the closer American troops are to our borders, the greater danger we are in. Kirby also said the US is paying attention to the red lines drawn by Moscow and Ukraine adding, "We don't just take anything for granted when they say it, and we are not dismissive." In the autumn, Russia's foreign ministry warned Washington that deliveries of long-range weapons to Kiev would cross a red line and make America a direct party to the conflict. On Tuesday, Dmitry Polyansky, Moscow's first deputy permanent representative to the UN, suggested that while the West has disregarded some of Moscow's warnings, it is possible that the most red lines have not been crossed yet. However, on Wednesday, Russia's foreign ministry said that all talk about red lines have become a thing of the past, pointing out to the ongoing hybrid war waged by the West against Russia in Ukraine. The United States has unequivocally declared that it seeks to inflict a strategic defeat on Russia. It's impossible to ignore reality, the ministry added. Yes, that is true. And, General Lloyd Austin, he openly said that the goal with arming Ukraine is to bleed Russia, right? We want to weaken Russia. So they have stated these things openly. It's no longer a secret. And then we had the comments by Angela Merkel and Hollande and, Poroshenko and these figures. So yeah, the West has been quite open actually about their intentions with Russia, and I think we should do a video going through the Rand papers on the Rand Corporation. They talk about how to destroy Russia and so forth. That would be a good video to make. I want to thank everybody. Please like, share, and subscribe. And I'm also on Odyssey, so check me out over there as well. And thank you.